Thank you to the local scene for providing this opportunity. I'm Michelle Badger, and I'm running as a Democratic candidate to be your next state representative in the 1st Plymouth District. I'm currently the chair of the Plymouth School Committee, and I've been honored to serve on the committee for the last 13 years. During that time, I've led important initiatives, built consensus and coalition. I've worked across the aisle with people with diverse thoughts and opinions and parties to accomplish goals. Some of my accomplishments include enhancing translation services, implementing full-day kindergarten, and revamping our elementary school health curriculum. I'm passionate about service and Plymouth and am driven by the belief that we rise by lifting others. All that I do is in service with the hope that I impact others' lives positively. I'm running to be state representative to ensure that people of all ages in Plymouth can remain and thrive in Plymouth. My priorities are creating more affordability in housing, bringing back resources for education, transportation, public safety, you name it, creating sustainable economic development, and ensuring reproductive rights for all are upheld. As your next state representative, I am dedicated to this role full time. I'm committed to the people of the 1st District. That's why Team Badger has knocked on over 5,700 doors and made 29,000 contacts. And we've earned the endorsements of unions, county, town, and state officials. I grew up here in Plymouth. I went through the public schools. I have my master's degrees from Suffolk University. And I began to get involved when I was in grad school with Plymouth No Place for Hate. And my professional background is in higher education fundraising, and I'm currently the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Massasoit Community College. If elected, I'll be honored to serve and advocate for the residents of the 1st Plymouth District, and I'll work hard to find solutions for the concerns and challenges that face our community. I humbly ask for your vote on or before November 5th.
Ballot question 1 is whether the state auditor should audit the legislature. Can you explain the ballot question, why it is or isn't needed, and your position on it?
My opinion on question 1 is that we do need to have audit. I will vote yes on question 1 myself. I believe in transparency in everything we do. I am currently on the school committee in Plymouth, and we are always pushing to make sure that our budget is more transparent every year. We have a budget book, we have a full-on website that you can go down and figure out how much it costs per pupil for art class. And so for me, we should be able to do that in our state legislature. I'm a nonprofit Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Massasoit Community College, and we do an audit every year. So to me, it really is important that we know what's happening in our state legislature. It's how we can make an appropriate decision on who we vote for and how money is allocated, and fully understanding where our state budget goes. There's a lot of money out there that we've got within our legislature, and there's a lot of things happening in our legislature. So we need full, open transparency throughout our budget, and making sure and giving our state auditor, Diana Zizzaglio, that ability to do that is of utmost importance. There's so many things in our state legislature that need to be opened up, more areas where we need to know about how people and our representatives vote. If we don't know how they vote, how do we know that we support what they believe in? How do we know that they're actually fighting for us and what we believe in? So for me, making sure that we have an open, transparent, and audited state legislature makes complete sense, and it feels like something that should have been done decades ago.
Ballot question 2 is on eliminating the MCAS graduation requirement. Can you explain the ballot question, why it is or isn't needed, and your position on it?
Ballot question 2, eliminating MCAS as a graduation requirement. To me, I will be voting yes. We need to eliminate it. It's high stakes. It's a high stakes test. Our students do not need that high stakes piece. We need the high standards that MCAS brought with it, but we do not need the high stakes portion. Our students are having enough stress in their day-to-day lives that putting this added pressure of a test that they need to have they need to pass in order to graduate, to me is just fundamentally wrong. Our students are learning every day in and day out, and many times we're taking hours of their class time, days and weeks of their class time away for prepping for MCAS, for making sure that while our students take them, that there are retakes to make sure that our students can pass the MCAS. And testing isn't for everybody. It is a snapshot of a student on one day. It's only showing us what that student was capable of on April 15th when they took their math exam or whatever it is that they're taking. It's not telling us what they do day to day. Every one of us has a bad day, and so putting that on our students like that, to me, is not okay. It's creating more mental health and more health problems and stress for our students, and isn't something that we need. The MCAS did bring us high standards, and that is something that I don't think that the state of Massachusetts will ever get rid of. You're learning the same thing in one school as you're learning in another in different grades. We're understanding and moving through curriculum so that our students are meeting benchmarks at different ages, and we're having high standards for students of all backgrounds and in all classes and in all areas. So MCAS really did bring good things, but the stress that it added is unnecessary. I also believe that we have enough benchmark examinations that we give our students throughout the year that we can see where our students are. Are they making progress in math? Are they making progress in reading? The MCAS aren't something that we need to have or remain and keep as our graduation requirement. Is, as I said, only really giving you a snapshot of a student on one day and not their overall ability. And I really believe that being able to reevaluate how we make sure our students are ready to graduate and looking at that district level and that state level is what's going to make the difference. Our students are amazing and they are doing great things, and our teachers are doing great things in the classroom, but getting rid of the MCAS will add a little bit more creativity back and give hours, days, and weeks back to our students and our teachers in their educational pursuits, making sure that they continue to live out their dreams and do all the things that they want to accomplish without a high stakes, but with high standards.
Ballot question 5 is on the minimum wage for tipped workers. Can you explain the ballot question, why it is or isn't needed, and your position on it?
Ballot question 5 is saying that instead of our tipped employees getting paid a lower amount under basic minimum wage, they would get paid minimum wage and continue to increase that over a period of time. Initially, I was unsure on how I felt about this ballot question. I really kind of did a lot of research trying to figure out what other areas of our country that have done this. Washington, D.C. has done this, and wanted to see the economic impact to both the region and the small businesses, which we need to think about, as well as the employees who are going from tip-based to minimum wage-based. And after having conversations with some of the local servers, when I go into restaurants now, I ask my server what their opinions are on that question 5. And so I've made the decision that I'm going to vote no on question 5 because I feel like there's still a lot of unanswered questions around it. How does it impact fully our small business owners? How does it impact our wait staff and other tipped employees? To make sure we fully understand. And when I look at what's happened in Washington, D.C., I believe they are struggling right now to keep the number of employees because businesses cannot afford to pay, and they've seen kind of a backlash on the increase of how much things cost on the menu. And so for me, I will be voting no, and this is a prime example of how I am a leader. As a leader, I make sure that I talk to the people that something is going to impact. I do it on the school committee. I have done it for the last 13 years, making sure if we're talking about a specific topic that I go to the constituents, I go to the people that are going to be most impacted. We have those conversations. And it's that time when we can have an open and frank dialogue about what are the intended consequences, what are the unintended consequences, and how do we move forward? Because I really believe that together we're stronger and together we make better decisions. So that is always how I've always been. If a topic comes up, and someone sends me an email or I run into them or we have a conversation, I give you my personal cell phone and we have a conversation about how this really impacts you and how it'll impact the community as a whole so that I can make a better decision that better impacts everybody. And so for me, really having conversations about question 5 helped me determine how I was going to vote and that I'll be voting no.
What do you see as the economic drivers in your district, and how will you support them in your role?
I think the economic drivers in Plymouth, we can really look at our main industries. We have tourism, which has roughly about 1.5 million tourists throughout the last, 30 years or so, and hasn't really grown significantly in that time period. And so I think that's an area that we could really look to continue to develop by diversifying the tourism, looking at, we're so lucky to live in a place steeped in history and steeped in so much conversation around our country about what Plymouth is and what makes Plymouth and who we are and getting people to come here. But we also can look at our environment and having our ecotourism and pieces like that I know we've been really developing and looking at. But what else can we do? I know the Plymouth Foundation is currently doing their research into or the partnership with the town to create potentially a convention center that I think we'll have word about later this fall, and seeing where that might land us, because that's going to bring additional people into our community that will go to our traditional tourist attractions, but they might also go on they might also enjoy our retail and enjoy our restaurants that we have. And so we need to build on that in diversifying our tourism industry in Plymouth. We then obviously have our retail we got our small and big shops as well, which is really driving Plymouth, making sure that we have people pulling down into our downtown, pulling into our different communities. We all are lucky to be able to live in our different parts of Plymouth that really attract and have different retail options, as well as different restaurants all around that we can all enjoy. And then there's our real estate, our real estate development has really been big in the last 20 years probably. Really exploded with our increase in our building of homes in Plymouth. And so I think what we really can do there is looking at our master planning project, which I'm really excited about, that has started in June. I believe it was June they had their first meeting, and will continue over the next year to have community meetings. And then in the next, over the following next year, really create a plan that I think as Plymouth we need to look at, and a plan that as somebody in the state rep position would do my best to really support in any way I could. If that's funding, is that what is needed to bring people to Plymouth, and make sure that we stick to our plan, because Plymouth is a wonderful place. We just need to figure out where we need to put our priorities, where we can develop and where we can't, what infrastructure needs to be developed given the different planning options that we end up looking at. And then we also have our blue economy that the Plymouth Foundation has done a lot to invest in, but we have a strong history of fishing and lobster industry, and we've got a growing aquaculture with our oysters. And so we need to invest in that blue economy. There's so much that we can do. Having worked at Mass Maritime for 10 years, I know a lot about the blue economy and what we're able to, we've products of Mass Maritime, many people from Plymouth, and making sure that we're investing in that aquaculture and our other areas of growth in our blue economy. And then I think it's really just important overall that as a community we look at our asset-based community development. There we can see what we have and really just build upon what makes Plymouth great. Those that are economic drivers that continue to help us. Because as a sitting school committee member, chair, I know that we need a lot of support within our town budget, and so we are gonna need to look at diversifying where we're getting our tax dollars and our tax base from, in order to make sure that our schools and our roads and we have the services for our seniors that we need. But we're gonna need to use and build upon our economic drivers and make sure that as a state representative, that I'm there to kind of help to create sustainable economic development for Plymouth, to make Plymouth a place that everybody can live and thrive in every stage of their lives, because we have someone at the state level advocating for funding or changes in a legislation that we might need in order to move Plymouth forward in a certain area of our economic drivers. But Plymouth is a really wonderful place, and I know together we can continue to grow and make sure we have all the resources we need in Plymouth.
What will be your top 3 goals and priorities in your elected role? Which committees would you wish to serve on?
My top legislative priorities would be affordability in housing and affordable housing. It's important that everybody who grows up here, determines to move here, or just loves Plymouth can stay here and thrive. We want to make sure that they have the resources they need to be able to either afford to buy a home, be able to rent a home, or find affordability in their homes when they make that choice. We've got people who are buying their first home here or just trying to get into an apartment. I mean, an apartment is like on a mortgage in some cases. And so we want to make sure that we are lifting people up throughout the spectrum from their first home to when they're seniors trying to stay in their home. And we need to think and do that creatively and do that together. I think Plymouth has made a great change in the spring town meeting where we now allow ADUs. ADUs are wonderful, but again, it's really expensive to put an addition onto your home like that. So that isn't going to be an option available to every senior or every young person to be able to find a home, or anybody just looking to live here. So we need to think creatively. We need to maybe potentially think about public-private partnerships where maybe we can, as a town of Plymouth, partner with a private company who wants to build those homes, and we would by the time the homeowner was in the home, it would be the homeowner's property. It would no longer be town property. But if we started there, it would be 30% decrease in the start cost for the land. So there's lots of different creative opportunities we can look there, because it's really important that we have housing in Plymouth and that we're looking at different kinds of housing throughout Plymouth. We need to make sure that our elderly are able to stay in their home, that they continue to have the senior tax credit. We've the highest increase in the unhoused is among our widowed women in their elderly age because they can't afford to stay in their home. So we really need to get together as a community and as a state and really solve this problem for everybody. The next thing is bringing resources back to our community. We need to be able to support our public safety as we continue to evolve. The public safety of 1980 is not the public safety of 2024. We have mental health clinicians. We are so lucky in Plymouth to have ride-along mental health clinicians, and I think we need to increase that and continue that as and training for our police officers to make sure they have what they need and the resources they need to thrive. We need to make sure our seniors have what they need back here in Plymouth, that the senior center is providing what they need, that they have the food that they need, that our schools have the resources they need to thrive, that we have what we need for transportation, because quite honestly, we don't have a great public transportation system in Plymouth. So let's look at how we can do that together. Sustainable economic development, we talked a little bit about that before, but we need to look at where we sit and really say, okay, Plymouth has we have a blue economy, we have all these wonderful natural resources, we have land, we have all of this area. What can we do to make Plymouth better? And what can we do to make sure that people can afford to live in Plymouth? And that's sustainable economic development. We live in an area that is surrounded by colleges. I work at Massasoit. Used to work at Mass Maritime. We have UMass Dartmouth. What can we do? Maybe bring some life science or biotech into our community. Continue to develop our blue economy, which the Plymouth Foundation has been doing. These are all things that we can do to make sure that our tax rate doesn't continue to increase at the level. And as state rep, I would work with our town and local officials to see what I could do and be as helpful as I can, making sure we get the resources they need. And what committees would I like to be on? I feel like you look at the list and it's really, it would all be wonderful to be on, but the Joint Committee, obviously, of Education is something that is near and dear to my heart. We've got Tourism, Arts, and Culture, which of course, with Plymouth, if we have 1.5 million visitors, we are a tourism economy, and we need to make sure that we are doing all that we can to support that. Housing, as I said, affordability in housing is so important to Plymouth and so much of the state of Massachusetts that I would love to be on the ground, working really hard day to day with that. Global warming and climate change, we know, is really affecting the acidity in the water in Plymouth, and then mental health. We see it in the schools every day. We've seen it since COVID. Really, the mental health epidemic has really increased, and we need people who are willing to fight and really get the resources we need to help our citizens. And so I would love to be on the Joint Committee for Mental Health.
How important is the art of compromise when it comes to representing all the citizens in your district and meeting legislative objectives?
The art of compromise is pivotal in being a leader. I think it's the only way that we've really ever gotten anything done, I'd say, in Plymouth, in our school committee. It's making sure that we can all find something that we agree on, that we can work together for a compromise. It's really the only way we can get anything done. Everyone has their own beliefs and their own opinions, but we need to sit down and have conversations and realize where we all come from and what is that one thing or the number of things that we can all agree on and move from there. To me, that's how we've been able to move our budget along this past budget cycle. We had a fairly contentious budget discussion, trying to make sure that we could meet the needs of the town, meet the needs of our employees, meet the needs of what the school wanted, and really look introspectively and say, what could we do as a school committee that would make this budget process a little bit better for everybody and on the town side. And so I worked with some members of the select board, and we sat down and talked about how we were going to move forward. And from that we've got a budget subcommittee that's developed from the school committee that we were going to have this year for the first time, members solely focused on making sure that we are following within budget guidelines, which we always do, but that we are communicative to our select board, making sure that they know what we're doing and we know what they're doing, so that as two branches of the executive in our town, that we can work together and make sure we get the resources we need. So that's an example. We were the first district in Plymouth, or the first district in the state to sign on to the Moms Demand Action Gun Sense resolution, and we did that through a lot of compromise within our own school committee, because obviously nobody wants to take guns away from anybody, and the point of this piece of resolution was that we as a school community wanted to educate our students and their families on how to properly store firearms and how to feel comfortable having that conversation if you're dropping your child off at someone's home and you know they have guns, or you just want to ask if they have guns. And so for us, we came together and we made sure that the resolution we put forward was one of education and one that met everybody's needs and was going to meet our community's needs and be able to move us forward. So for me, compromise is part of really everything that I do. I want to have those conversations with people. As I think I've mentioned before, whenever an issue comes in front of me, it's let's talk about where the intended consequences and the unintended consequences are, so that we can all we can find the best way. Through the middle is the best way to solve a problem anyways. On either end, you're not going to appease anybody, and the middle is the best way, in my opinion. On the legislative, to meet legislative objectives, we need more compromise in our state house. We clearly are, even though we are mostly a one-party state, we struggle to get things done. We are, I think, the 49th most effective legislature, which isn't a great stat to be able to say. They didn't get a ton accomplished this past legislative cycle, and a lot of what they accomplished was accomplished at the end. They accomplished great things. We get the HEROES Act, which thankfully I think that is a really important piece that we were able to get through. We have the affordable housing. There are so many other maternal health bill. We've got a lot of other things passed through. So it's not to say nothing was done, but it's to say that we need to come together and compromise more in order to move more things forward, because as a legislator, hopefully when I'm there and we're working for you. We're not working for ourselves and our own beliefs. We need to come together for the people of Plymouth and the people of the state to make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest of everybody. So compromise to me is really critical in everything that we do and will really get us to move forward in the legislature. Thank you for watching this interview. I hope I've addressed your questions and provided a clear understanding of my campaign. I'm excited to continue to engage with people throughout the district on the doors, phones, and in countless events. I'm a product of Plymouth and our public schools. I grew up here as a shy kid to blue-collar parents who worked hard every day to give me the opportunities that they didn't have. I'm driven by the work ethic that my parents instilled in me, and the belief that in my core that we rise by lifting others, as so many have done for me. I'm passionate and driven to serve Plymouth, and as your next state representative, I'm dedicated to this as my full-time job. I'll work hard every day just as I have done on the school committee for the last 13 years. I'm committed to the people of the 1st Plymouth District. That's why Team Badger has knocked over 5,700 doors, made over 29,000 contacts. We make phone calls whenever we can. I want to meet and talk with as many Plymouth residents as possible. I'm running to be your voice, the voice of all of Plymouth. I have a strong track record of collaborating across party lines to build coalitions that advance initiatives and support the needs of Plymouth. If elected, I'll be honored to serve and work and advocate for the 1st Plymouth District at the State House and work hard to find solutions for the concerns and challenges that face our community. I'm fully committed and understand the time commitment that this role entails. I look forward to working on behalf of and with all of you. You can find out more at badgerforplymouth.com. You can reach out to us at badgerforplymouth@gmail.com. Call my cell phone, 774-454-8549. Always happy to have a conversation with you. I humbly ask for your vote on or before November 5th. Thank you.